back to my channel. I'm Cowgirl Kenzie, the Chronically Ill Cowgirl, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy you're here, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come watch my videos. If you enjoy them, please subscribe, at least consider it, and maybe leave a like down below. I would love it if you did that. I appreciate it so much. And if you're not new here, then welcome back. I love seeing you guys come back, even though there's not very many of you, but I appreciate those that do. So this video is gonna be a little different because May is Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome Awareness Month, and that is kind of my main top of the chart diagnosis that explains a lot of my issues and why I had the issues I did in childhood as well. Growing pains, they weren't growing pains. And I mean, obviously in certain instances it is growing pains, but with Ehlers-Danlos being such a rare disease, it's actually being found now that it's not so rare, it's actually quite common, but it's misdiagnosed a lot, especially as fibromyalgia, because you often are in a lot of pain. The basis of it is that it's a connective tissue disorder, which means that all of the things that connect your body together, mine don't work great. So that's why I am super bendy, and having the hypermobile part, that means that my joints are very, very loose. So even like all my knuckles and my hands will pop sometimes, my wrists, my elbow, my shoulders. I have my shoulders go out, like dislocate sometimes. Most people have dislocations a lot more often than I do. I'm really fortunate and don't have a lot of dislocations, but I do end up with subluxations, which to put it down in more common terms, I go out of place. My ribs pop out, shoulders pop out, you know, they just slip and slide all around because there's laxity in all of my joints. So like, I can take my thumb and push it all the way to my wrist and like a whole bunch of other things, but I really shouldn't do because, I mean, we call them our party tricks because it's kind of how you explain it, and it's usually the easiest way to show people, and then everybody's like, oh my god, that's so wild, and it's just a whole thing. But it's more than that. It affects us daily, and not a lot of people understand it, and so that's what this is all about. All of us are sharing things daily. I haven't had the ability to do that myself, but I did want to make a video explaining what it is and how it affects me, just so that you guys can understand, and just to kind of spread some awareness so you understand why it's such a struggle for me sometimes being on a farm. And if you know somebody that has Ehlers-Danlos, then you can understand their life a little better and the struggles that they deal with as well. So I really hope you guys enjoy this video. So to start off, I did want to kind of explain, I do have a little notepad here with my notes and stuff, so if you see me looking down, that's why. I'm just trying to keep it going with what I need to say to explain it properly. So I have already kind of explained that it's a connective tissue disorder, and I'm really bendy, and I go out of place a lot, and like all that stuff. But I haven't quite explained in depth why that happens. So the connective tissue disorder basically mainly affects the collagen. It can affect a lot more than that, but it mainly affects collagen in your body. And if you think about the parts of your body that have collagen, it's everywhere, like in your skin, in your organs, or like it's what your organs are made of. There's connective tissue everywhere in the body. And then you can kind of start to understand how much of the body is affected by this because it's every single part of the body. I roll my ankles at least once a day, if not more, which is really not good. So I'm working with a hypermobility coach, and she's been amazing. She's helped me a lot, and we're getting through it. So hopefully I can get stronger and be able to hold my joints together a little bit better and enjoy my life a little more. But so that also means that our skin is super stretchy. So like, I don't know if I can show you there, but on my neck, it's pretty stretchy. A lot of people can pull it like way out here. It's crazy. But yeah, it affects all parts of the body, and that also, with the skin being like that, that creates poor wound healing as well. So I am covered in scars, and sometimes we get weird scarring that's called, I believe, atopic scarring or something like that. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but it's a certain type of scar that's different than what normal people usually get. So there's also, along with it, super sensitive skin, so I have to be really careful the products that I use on my body, the things that I do consume, because even my insides can be sensitive to certain foods like gluten and dairy. That's not a big part of Ehlers-Danlos, but that is something that I personally deal with. I have a lot of gut issues, so taking care of that aspect is a little... I mostly just take a digestive enzyme or something like that that will help break down the gluten and dairy, and I eat gluten-free like 3/4 of the time, half the time, sometimes. It just kind of depends, but on how I'm feeling. We'll put it that way. It depends on how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling good, if I haven't had gluten in a while, maybe I'll splurge a little bit and eat half a pizza, you know, but it's not anything huge. But I still have to pay attention to it, and it takes a lot. It makes it hard to go out sometimes, because if I need to make sure that I'm eating something gluten-free, not all places have gluten-free options. I mean, thankfully, it's becoming much more popular now and a lot more common, but it's not everywhere, you know? So it can be tricky, and that's where you can end up having troubles with friends and other relationships, because you make things difficult. But I'm here to tell you out there, if somebody can't care enough about you as a human being your friend or your significant other or anything, honestly, if they can't you know, understand that and try and take that into account to help you be more comfortable and have a good time yourself, they're not a very good friend either. So keep that in mind. The other common thing is widespread chronic pain. With all the different types of Ehlers-Danlos, so like there's the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos, and then there are like, I believe 13 or so other mainly known types of collagen, or not types of collagen, types of Ehlers-Danlos. So there's quite a few different versions. There's vascular EDS, classical EDS, there's a lot of different ones. And those ones have more serious health issues. Hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos has the least, it's the least life-threatening, but it also has the most pain. So, kind of a win-lose there. But it's better than having major heart issues, which, I mean, technically I already have heart issues because it runs in the family, but, and due to my POTS, which is a comorbidity, we'll get into that later, but due to my POTS, that's a heart issue, but I will explain that later in the video because I want to stay on track here. So we have a lot of pain, joint pain, muscle pain, and like nerve pain even, because if things move around in the body, sometimes a nerve can get pinched, and that hurts a lot. it's not fun to have a pinched nerve, and I'm sure those of you out there have had one. Who have had a pinched nerve, you know it sucks. So to move on from the pain, kind of tying in with the collagen part again, and the sensitive skin, and the laxity, the bendiness, whatever you want to call it, you can also end up with prolapsed organs, any organ. And especially for women, that makes pregnancy a high-risk pregnancy with EDS, because one, you could have your hips like dislocate during childbirth or whatever, but as well, you could have your uterus prolapse. And that's scary too. Like, I'm scared of that, even just with like not having children. Like, I'm still scared because I have gut issues and all this stuff, so like, who knows what can happen. Alright, now let's move on to the comorbidities that I had mentioned earlier. One of the main ones that I have is POTS, Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia Syndrome. And that probably didn't make any sense. But basically, for me, you know when you stand up too quickly and you kind of lose your vision a little bit and you're like, whoa, it feels really weird. That can happen to me almost every single time I stand up if I'm not careful. I have to stand up really slowly or gradually so that I don't get dizzy and potentially pass out. And again, thankfully, I'm on the lower end of the spectrum for this, but I have passed out before, and it's not fun. It hurts. And so it can be kind of tricky, and that makes me also really sensitive to temperatures, so I can't take very hot showers or I can pass out. And temperature changes, like drastic ones, end up giving me like stomach cramps and stuff. It's not fun. And there are other heart issues as well that can come along with it, but as far as I know, I really only understand the POTS part of it. And again, this is more to do with my personal experience with Ehlers-Danlos, not the whole picture of everybody else. So it can look very different with other people. Every EDS person is different, but there are some main things that are pretty consistent with all of us, like the things that I've been mentioning with the connective tissue, because we all have weird tissues. We have issues with our tissues, as a lot of us like to say. And so I lost my train of thought. Anyways, another comorbidity, which first I should explain comorbidity. Comorbidities basically just means other things that are commonly found to be diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos or whatever other disease, syndrome, whatever you're talking about. So then there's also gastrointestinal issues. I have IBS personally, but there are others out there who have gotten to the point of gastroparesis and needing to be on TPN and, you know, doing all of this stuff. So it gets quite hectic once you really get down to it with all the different issues that we can have. And I know there are far more comorbidities, but those are the main ones that I hear about myself more than anything. I did want to touch on, hypermobility spectrum disorder, which is similar to EDS. Let me correct myself. It is similar to hypermobile EDS, but it is not the same. So if any of these things sound familiar on the hypermobility side, you may not have EDS necessarily. It could just be the HSD instead of EDS. So just take all the information that you've gotten in this video and maybe some other videos from other people who are also doing these types of videos for May, being Ehlers-Danlos Awareness Month. So I would just take it to your doctor and explain, because one of the things that I really learned early on in this, because I was so angry that nobody had caught this before, but you have to understand that most doctors are not taught to look for major illnesses and stuff like that. They start at the bottom with the small things. And everybody says, since we call ourselves zebras, that doctors are often taught in medical school, when you hear hooves, you think of a horse, where they're generally they can have other colors, but like sometimes it's just all one color, so it's only one problem to look at. Whereas with zebras, they've got stripes all over, which is like multiple symptoms, multiple issues coming together to create one, like EDS. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, that's where the zebra part comes from, and it also, it helps explain how everything is the way it is, I guess. I kind of lost my train of thought again. I'm kind of tired right now, so yeah. There is also something that is not necessarily specific to Ehlers-Danlos, but more just directed in general at chronic illness. If you haven't heard of the spoon theory, I would highly suggest reading it. I'll even link it down below in the description of this video, because it is a fantastic way of explaining our daily struggle with energy and all of our issues, all of our symptoms, all of our flares, all of our conditions, all of the things that we have to take care of requires energy or spoons. So it's been super helpful for me personally to be able to think about my own energy and what all I can do in a day, and being realistic with myself. So I will leave that link down below, and I hope you guys will go read that, because it's super helpful. If you are new to the chronic illness community, or if you know somebody that is dealing with this, whatever, go read it. It will help you so much to feel better and either more understood, or you'll be able to understand somebody else so much easier.